We can keep progressing until you're taking 120-pound dumbbells for a ride, and that's adding in complexity, or multi-joint movements. So things that aren't calculated need to be trained. You need to know how to move one joint and then also move multiple joints together in the movement pattern that they need to be in the position they need to be in under a load at the gym, resistance, whether that's a band, a dumbbell, a barbell, and that translates into your everyday life.
Hey, fitness and health fans, it's game on with another episode of the Sporting Good Posture podcast. Get Coach Margella's advice from the sidelines as he helps you crush your game, no matter what health or fitness game you play.
Hey, I'm Coach Margella. I'm sporting good posture. What are you sporting?
Hey, Coach Margella, what's your advice today?
Welcome back to another episode of Sporting Good Posture. This is Coach Margella here, and today I have my coach, a very special episode with Lauren here, and she is the owner of All Strength Nashville here in Cool Springs in Tennessee, and she's been training people for many years, and she's got a lot of experience and a lot of good knowledge to share with you today. So I just want to welcome you on the show today.
Hey, thanks. Frank, thanks for having me. We saw you in the gym yesterday, so it's cool to be in your office today and talking about some good stuff that we've been doing.
Absolutely. And, I met Lauren probably a couple years ago, and we looked at working with each other because our health and wellness and exercise just kind of overlap each other. So it made sense to work together. I do a lipolaser program, and it helps people lose weight in inches. So we thought that it would be a good complement to team up and start having people go back and forth between the two facilities. So again, I want to thank you for doing that, not only with patients I've had and people in the office, but also for me. I've been working out with Lauren now really hard the last few months, especially trying to do my transformation. So she's been the one pushing me, giving me the workouts to do not only in her gym, but also at home. And it's good that we get to pick your brain today a little bit about what's going on. So, well, especially like when I first came in, and just when you have people first come in, what do you notice that is a common problem or a common deficit that people have that you have to address when they first come in?
Well, I think a lot of times people have the wrong idea around gyms, working out, or even a transformation and what it takes. I hear a lot of people, and what they seem to know about it is, either it's completely wrong or it's just not quite right 100%. And if, they're missing the mark here and there. A lot of times I find that it's their daily habits, whether it's nutrition, their sleep, stress management, is off outside the gym, which in turn makes it a lot harder for me when they're, in the gym and I'm trying to work with them on stuff. Types of training are different. They don't want to get big, or they're fearful of this or movement, and trying to get them to understand that it's all of those pieces, parts that bring a transformation together as a whole. And they just don't really see the big picture, or they want to do it their way from something they've researched or something they've heard, and that's not going to get it done. So I find that they need a lot of open-mindedness. They need to be coachable, and they need to trust the process, because when you walk through my doors, the intention is for you to reach whatever goal you have set. And at that point, if you are willing to work with me, we're going to get those results that you're looking for.
So I know, like with what I did when I first came in, one of my biggest things was conditioning. I hadn't worked out a lot. I had a lot of deficits, and definitely in my conditioning, but also just some, lingering injuries that had kind of held me back for years. And we addressed some of those things. So if you want to just elaborate on some of those things that you noticed, not only with me, but other clients that you have, of how to get started and really get started on the right foot in a new workout program. Yeah,
I see it all the time when people come into the gym. They're dealing with previous injuries, restrictions, limitations, whatever they're coming in with, and they're timid to move. They think that working out is going to make the problem worse, that they're going to re-injure themselves. So the first thing I try to do is reassure them that I'm really good at what I do, and knowing how the body works and the mechanics of the body too, where we cannot avoid any of the injuries or the joints that may be causing you problems, but we can look at your body as a whole and look at your movement patterns as a whole and assess that and see where we're getting a breakdown. Where is this movement breaking down to cause pain in this area? And so working with them to trust the process of movement will heal. Movement brings healing. And so we can move in such a way to where we start to bring healing and relief to these injuries that you've been having for years, where you would, when you essentially come in, you think, you're going to make it worse, or you're scared to do it. And so I find that once I can get the clients to trust and to build confidence in those movements, they come back in saying, oh, my shoulder feels better, my knee feels better, my lower back doesn't hurt as bad. Well, absolutely, because we're assessing where the breakdown is happening, we're correcting it, and we're making that stronger. We're making that pathway, that movement stronger, which is going to help all of your other little daily movements outside of the gym. So I always urge people, movement heals. Don't avoid, because that's when the stiffness comes in. That's when more injuries come in. And so it's just finding a trainer or a coach to take you through that. And in my experience, there's a lot of professionals in the field that will really just avoid those problem areas. You come in with a hurt shoulder, well, they're going to take out any type of overhead press or pushing or anything like that. Well, avoiding is not going to fix it. In my opinion, in my experience, it only makes it worse. So we really assess those movements and try to bring about stronger joints. So when you come in, you have limitations. When you leave, I want you to have less limitations.
Well, that makes sense, because I fall in that same category. One of the things that held me back for a while was just not being able to work out like I thought I could, because I had some previous injuries. I had about 15 years ago, I partially tore my rotator cuff in my left shoulder, and it had caused just a lot of pain over that time, and it really decreased what I was doing and what I thought I could do. Also, I had some stiffness in my knees just from playing football, getting hit, having some previous injuries in the knees itself. So you definitely taught me a lot of things and gave me a lot of confidence that I could still work those things out without re-injuring it, and doing it in a way that was safe for a joint that may not be as strong as it used to be or as stable as it used to be. What are some of the things, like with the listeners, that you might recommend, what you've done with me for some of those, like what alterations do you make to the workouts to make that possible to do those movements?
Well, when you're talking about movements, I break it down into two categories. You have your simplicity and you have your complexity. When you come in and I'm assessing a new client, I start with the basics, and you probably hear that all the time, the fundamentals, the basics. Well, I like to change it. I start with simplicity of the movement. Once we have mastered that, then we start to layer in the complexity. And that's going to be more correlating to your daily life. So a lot of times we get it twisted to where we have an injury and, we rehab it or we nurse it in such a way that's very simple, very isometric. Like, I'm going to do this one movement because it helps. You're not wrong. It might. But what happens in your day-to-day life when you're not calculating your movements, you're engaging with your kids or family, or you're doing an activity, that movement now that was so simple is now complex. And so everyone starts with the simplicity at the gym. A lot of times it's modifying or regressing a movement and kind of putting your preconceived notions or your ego to the side just a little bit and saying, okay, I used to be able to lift this much weight this way with a barbell, but I'm going to have to be okay with maybe changing it to a dumbbell so my grip or my position is different, or in a neutral position, and maybe I won't move as much weight, and that's okay as I'm relearning. But the cool thing there is, as we change what a piece of equipment we're using or the weight we're using. We still can play around with tempo, with rest, how much rest and we're given in between to almost put the same effect, and I keep telling you all the time, it's time under tension. So let's say you're not getting under a bar and bench pressing 300 pounds anymore. Right. We can still try to create close to that volume with the dumbbell, with time under tension and things like that. And so I would, for listeners out there, it's just changing the way you're working out. Work smarter, not harder. You hear it all the time, but it absolutely is true. Start with simplicity. Make sure that is not causing any more injury or any more discomfort to that joint. And then you can start layering in complexity. All of a sudden, you look back, it's been a couple months, those little daily movements that were nagging or coming up, flaring up, seem to kind of drop away or decrease. And that's when you're on the right track. And from there, the progression is linear. You can continue to add. So, for example, as we work on, let's say, bench press for you, because we know that that's a problem area with the labrum and the rotator cuff. Right. If we wanted to, we could get under a heavy barbell and do that, and do heavy bench press, but that might not, feel good the next day, and that could, come into play when you're at work or with your kids. So, we can keep progressing until you're, taking 100-pound dumbbells, 120-pound dumbbells for a ride. Yeah, it's not on the barbell like you're used to, but it's still going to have the same effect. So, and that's adding in complexity or multi-joint movements, right? So things that aren't calculated need to be trained. You need to know how to move one joint and then also move multiple joints together in the movement pattern that they need to be in the position they need to be in, under a load at the gym, resistance, whether that's a band, a dumbbell, a barbell, and that translates into your everyday life.
Well, that's a great point too, because for a while I was nervous about doing bench, but also I had done dumbbells in the past, but I didn't look at them as like, hey, this can be the new standard of what I'm doing. And it's honestly, I like them better now than, doing the bench. Like 20 years ago, obviously I'm younger, I'm trying to just throw up a bunch of weight, and all that did was damage things because I was doing them incorrectly. That's the other thing I've learned a lot, is that I've learned better form. I've learned alternate ways of doing these exercises, and I really like the combination of things. Like you do a lot of supersets, and if you want to explain to the listeners what a superset is and how it differs from just doing one body part a day like a lot of people do at the gym.
Yeah, I love working in supersets because what it does is when you're talking about movement, I like to group movements that complement one another. You hear a push and a pull and things like that. So when one muscle is pushing, you have muscles that are also lengthening and shortening as working in relationship, working in opposites to one another. So I love the supersets because what we can do is we can focus on one set of muscles doing the work, and then in a concentric form, and then you can pair other muscles working the opposite. And so when you pair those together, what it does is it trains your body. When you're doing it correctly, it trains your body to have that balance, that give and take, to where if you're just doing one exercise or two completely into the spectrum exercises, your body just doesn't have a chance to form a good solid movement pattern. That neurological pathway is just kind of chopped. Where this seems to be kind of fluid. If you notice our workouts, they tend to have a lot of fluidity to one another, right? We start with simplicity, we add complexity, and then we bring it back to simplicity with the kind of overall goal or theme of the workout, to where we can target muscle groups multiple times throughout the workout with different instruments, with different loads and tempos, where we don't have to just absolutely crush one body part with a heavy amount of weight.
Yeah.
Where we're putting all of, our connective tissue under, a serious amount of load. And it just drives home that movement pattern. As you know, I'm a stickler when it comes to movement. I tell people, I specialize in movement, how you move, and everyone moves differently, but your body wants to move in a certain way. Your joints want to be loaded in a certain position and things like that. So when we're going through the workout, there's so many times where I'm cueing you in a different position, or I'm cueing you to hold or to breathe and to brace. And so with the movement pattern, we're able to really challenge our CNS and overload that to where our coordination gets better, our stabilization gets better, things like that. And that's an overall benefit when you come in and you work out with me or anyone else that's focusing on that, not just aesthetics, right? And obviously that's a big goal, but we're just building better bodies. And that is one of the things that will help prevent injuries. We know that, but also help decrease injuries and the pain we feel from injuries that we already have. That's
right. And I noticed too, I feel like I'm building a better foundation on my body, which goes right along with, obviously, I'm a chiropractor. The podcast is Sporting Good Posture. I'm big into posture. That's really the basis now of what I talk about. It's really the basis of health, but I'm finding it to be the basis of just working out in general. And what do you talk to people about as far as like building their foundation, posture and things like that? What do you notice when you're working with people and things you tell them to improve on that?
The biggest thing that I notice, and I talk about it all the time, is the midline. And we hear core, we hear trunk support, and those are all great words. I like midline because it just gives a deeper meaning than just saying core. When you say core, people think of, six-pack abs or your abs that you want to see. But really stability starts in the midline. It starts in your trunk, your core, pretty much from your sternum down around your glutes. And so, that is everyone that comes to the door. That's probably the first thing that I look at. No matter what pre-existing injuries they're coming in with, the midline is what I work on. The pelvic floor to me is the most important thing that I can help somebody with when they come in. And I know as a chiropractor with adjustments.
And that's not only a thing for girls, that's actually for guys too, because we've been working on it. Can you explain a little bit about that too? Yeah, so the specialty work that I do with the pelvic floor, the whole premise is lower back pain, which if you ask anyone, they're going to have some discomfort in their low back. Right. Is a result of the pelvis being in the incorrect position. So necessarily when somebody comes in with low back pain, obviously it's a movement deficiency. But it's not their low back that's doing anything wrong. That is where the pain is happening. But what's causing that is the anterior tilt of that pelvis. And people, they have no idea. They literally have no idea. It's not something that anyone touches base on. Yeah. Nobody's going to teach you when you're learning to walk or to run or when you're in athletics. Nobody's really teaching you about the position of your pelvis, but in my, experience, it's probably the most foundational thing that we can do for ourselves, because from that stems everything else. Stability, like I said, starts in the midline, goes out through the extremities. Well, if our pelvic floor is tilted forward, that's only jamming up those lower vertebrae, and that's why everyone has these disc issues. So what I do is I can assess that, and I do a lot of work with the pelvic floor and the intrinsic abdominal muscles
to be able to be aware of where your pelvis is in time and space, and also have the strength and control to use your core muscles, your deep core muscles, you probably don't even know you have, to rotate that pelvis back to its resting position. The analogy I use is a bowl, right? Your pelvis is a bowl. You should be able to look down through it. A lot of us walk around with that bowl tilted forward and everything in it is spilling out. So one of the things that I do is I work with the awareness and strengthening and bringing that bowl back to where it's upright, right? And it's not spilling out. From there, I can clean up a lot of other joint issues because that now resets our spine and the alignment of the vertebrae to where other joints now are at rest as well. Because we know that things attach to our ribs. Well, our ribs attach to the spine, attach to the pelvis. So we can easily start to see where that chain breaks down. And I go straight for the cause of it, and that's going to be that pelvic tilt. So I love working with chiropractors because as you are getting people on your table, you're adjusting them, you're resetting. When they come to me and they're more reset than they would have been before, or sometimes they come straight from you and they come straight to me.
Right.
And so it's like, great, you just saw Fred, awesome, you're reset. Now let's work on the musculature of that, and let's strengthen those muscles in the correct position. And we start to see over time an unwinding of deficient movement patterns and of pain and joint impingements. And we start to see the building of strong, stable, and correct movement patterns. That is the root cause of people's pain. It's not the low back. It's not other things you're doing. Those are symptomatic. I mean, we're putting a Band-Aid over those. Yeah. You come see me and we're going straight to the source. Takes a little bit longer. You build confidence, takes a lot more trust, but eventually we start to see that is what is giving us those results down the road.
Well, I notice someone like me who played football and played lacrosse and baseball, did a lot of lifting, more like old school lifting. We just did a lot of squats. We did a lot of power cleans, bench press. But I know I used to be able to squat a lot of weight, but I also now I was doing it incorrectly. And as most athletes in general, I find they'll work the big groups of muscle. They really ignore those smaller groups, especially guys, because they don't focus on that. But I find that I wish that I knew these things 20 years ago, because I wouldn't have had some of the injuries I had with my shoulder, with my back, with my knee, that were related to imbalances in the muscles because I was overworking one group and not working other groups. So I'm glad you showed me that, and definitely that's something we're working on, is getting my foundation stronger with that too, and almost relearning some of that. And it's frustrating because you can't do as much weight, but at the same time, it feels better because I know that I'm working it correctly now, and I'm going to decrease my injury risk. And I appreciate you spending the time showing me that and working with your clients doing that. Absolutely.
And the thinking of you'll never be able to lift heavy weights again is completely wrong. Yeah. I had a guy in the gym the other day who years of just excruciating back pain, and he came to me and he was like, I just got to do something. I've seen PTs, I see a chiropractor, all these things which are good, but still not really finding relief. And it's starting to creep into his work, his home life. And he was like, enough is enough. And so he comes in, he goes, and we were going over some squats and some deadlifting for him. Now, big guy, he's probably 240, 250, over 6 foot. I mean, he's a big, strong guy that's crippled by his low back pain. Yeah. And he said, people are telling me all the time that I shouldn't be lifting heavy. And I said, don't listen to them. I said, right now we're not lifting heavy because we're relearning movement patterns and mechanics. And I tell clients all the time, this is like you learning a foreign language. You're literally having to relearn all of these movements you thought you knew. And I said, when, day one of a new language, you're not jumping in and you're not fluent. You're not having a conversation. You're learning the alphabet. It's that analogy. And so I said, don't listen to them. I said, my goal for you is a couple months down the road, I want to be able to load up a barbell, and I want you to be able to pull some heavy deadlifts from the floor safely and correctly, knowing how to breathe and to brace, using the midline and letting your lower back have relief. And I said, so don't listen to them. I absolutely think that you'll be able to pull 225 from the floor for reps, pain-free, with great form, months down the road. And I said, that's the goal. And, people watch me lift, and I'm by no means am I, the greatest lifter out there. I'm not. I move well. I do what I coach. And so people, they're like, oh, wow, you're very strong. It's like I can continue to add weight as long as my form's good, because there's not that plateau, that tipping point where poor form will start capping you off at a certain weight. Yeah. And so if I can lift heavy and other people can lift heavy pain-free, well, then you can too. And so don't think that you'll never going to be able to, squat heavy or pull a heavy deadlift off the floor. You will. We're just not there yet. But that's the beauty of what we do is there's no cap. There's an exponential growth in how much you can do as long as your form is good. And it's supporting the joints and the movement patterns that your body needs in order to do these movements.
And I agree with that because I see that on my transition. I'm feeling way stronger, and I know that if I want to, I'll get back to those weights that I never thought I could do again, because I know now my form's better and my foundation's better to be able to get to that point. So I definitely see the benefits of that and see the results after just a short time too. So it comes back quick. Like if somebody's been an athlete, I feel like you'll get back into it. I think the hardest part for me, and I think most patients, is just making the decision to start. Mm-hmm. Like just making that decision. So we picked the day. It was December 2nd. And 2019, we just said we're gonna start doing this, and we're gonna follow this through and just see how it goes. And it was good that we did that because I needed to have that day. I needed to have that accountability, and I think that's where some other people maybe fall off, is because they don't have that accountability. And the value of a coach, everybody has a coach. Like Tiger Woods has a coach, Michael Jordan had a coach. All these guys have coaches, and I think it's so important that people. It's good to work out on your own, and it's important that you do that. But to have a coach with you working on these things specifically that can see it from an outsider view, I think is really important. That sometimes people overlook that and don't think they need it, but really it is very important to have that, so that you not only do it the right way, but also don't get hurt, and you see results faster. It's well worth doing that with a coach, I think. And I appreciate you doing that with me and all the people that you work with.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're absolutely right. I think for people, if they can overload the consistency at the very beginning, we said we had that December 2nd start date. My goal for you was to get you in the gym as much as you could with your busy schedule, as much as we could that first week. Because you get more comfortable going, you get in a routine, and we're all creatures of habit, whether we realize it or not. We like to plan out and know what our day and our weeks are going to look like. Mm-hmm. So if we, are adding something new, it kind of throws us off for a second, and then we start to build that routine. And for you, I've watched you come in, once a week, or maybe I had to reach out to you, never in a bad way, never like I thought you weren't going to come in, but more of like, hey, he's really busy. Like, let me be very proactive on getting him to come in. And now the tables have turned. Now you are the one reaching out to me. Hey, what do you have at this day? What do you have this day? Hey, I can't make it this day. Let's try for this one. Or, hey, can you send me a home workout real quick? Or I'm going to Dallas. Like, give me a hotel workout. And it's awesome to see that switch in people, where at first it's, I'm kind of, really kind of getting him to come in And it's just with anything else, you see people get addicted in a good way, a healthy addiction or a healthy love for the gym, or to build a routine like that. But you see that addiction to where they want to come in, you want to eat healthier, you want to do these things on your own. Makes my job a whole lot easier. But also you're starting, this is kind of more habitual for you. This is more of a lifestyle for you. Like incorporating the gym is very important to you. Incorporating healthy habits with you and your family is very important to you, and that's caught on. And that's really what the neat thing is for my job, is to see people kind of get that to where, you're kind of pulling teeth to get them in, and now they're wanting to come in. And all they got to do is start to see the changes. And that's the hard thing with any type of weight loss or transformation, or even people that come in that are suffering from a lot of pain. They have the same barriers as somebody come in that needs to lose a lot of weight. It's the same thing. Yeah. They're hesitant to come in for X, Y, and Z. But once they come in a couple times and they start to see the benefits, then it catches on like wildfire. And they want to come in more and more because the consistency breeds results. And then they're just trapped in this benefit cycle. The more I come, the more I get out of it. So I'm going to come more and I'm going to get more out of it. And then they start to bring other people, their network, their family, their friends, their loved ones. They're starting to bring them in because they're just like, hey, I found help or relief, or I found a community. So can you? And that's a testament to you as well. Now when you come in the afternoons, you come on Friday, you're seeing the same kind of people. Yeah. You get to, shoot the shit with your boys at the gym, and you probably look forward to that. I look forward to having you come in. They look forward to you being there, and we all get in and we crush a workout. And sometimes I hop in, sometimes I'm finishing up, and it's a good atmosphere. It's a good community base. You were never going to find that had you not started on December 2nd. You weren't going to find that if you didn't seek out a coach. I mean, those are the benefits. It's not just you pay and you get a workout. You pay and you get all these other things that you might not have really thought about at first, but come along with it. And that's the neat thing. That's what I like to see with clients.
Well, it's cool, too, because a lot of them are doing, like, most of us are in this NutriShop challenge. So
this NutriShop challenge will be the death of us, but also it's a beautiful thing, and I love it.
So NutriShop is a place in Franklin here, and they have a challenge they do every year at New Year's, and the winner gets $1,000, and then they have other, the second and third get some money too, and some bits. But it's also good just to go in there and actually scan you. So they have something called an in-body scanner. And I think part of the other problem is you mentioned, like, people may not know they're getting results or may not see it right away. So the nice thing is I've been going to NutriShop every week or every other week doing those in-body scans, and it's not just my weight. And most people get caught up on what does the scale say? Well, the scale only tells part of the story. And it's really about how much muscle have I gained? How much fat have I lost? What's my body chemistry? What's my body composition now? And that in-body scanner shows all that. It shows your body fat mass. It shows your body fat percentage. It shows your muscle mass percentage. It shows your visceral fat. And the visceral fat is that bad fat around your organs that causes cancer, heart disease, chronic diseases. Those are the things that you want to track. And it also tells you your weight. So as much as I've lost some weight on this, I've lost about 5 or 6 pounds, but I've also lost 10 pounds of fat. And if I didn't track that on that machine, I wouldn't know internally that I'm losing all that fat, and I've gained muscle. Mm-hmm. I've gained 5 pounds of muscle doing this work too. And really, for me, that's what means more than what the scale says. And I wore this shirt purposely today. I haven't worn this shirt in 2 years.
All right.
So this shirt it's a slimmer fit shirt, and I used to wear this stuff a lot. And a couple of years ago, it started to get tight on me, and I'm like, man, I can't wear this shirt. So I put them to the side of my closet. So just this week, I ran out of shirts. I didn't go to the cleaners, and I'm like, I go to the other day, and I'm like, oh man, I don't have any clean shirts. So I see these 4 shirts sitting to the side there, and I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, ooh, let me see if I fit in these shirts. Well, there's 4 shirts there. I fit in these 4 shirts again. They've been sitting there for 2 years. And I remember saying, I want to wear these shirts again. Well, I'm wearing these shirts. And there's more shirts I'm going to have and that I'm going to get into. And there's some pants in my closet that I'm going to start going through because I think I can start fitting in all these things.
Absolutely.
And that's motivation too. And then we've been taking pictures. I think it's really important to take starting pictures, mid-time pictures, ending pictures. Like if you're not tracking your results, I feel like people are falling short because they don't realize that they are gaining muscle and they are losing fat and they are losing weight. It may not be as quick as you want sometimes, but a lot of times it is if you actually track it. And a lot of times you can't see that day to day. You have to take pictures and you have to do these scans to see it. And I think people don't do that. And I was guilty of that too. I never did that in the past. I just kind of looked and said, oh, yeah, I'm looking pretty good or I'm feeling good. But now I can track it. And that's more important.
Well, and also what was the biggest thing that InBody showed that we were deficient in? And it was how much you were eating.
Yeah.
You've eaten more since we've started this journey than you have in years.
That's a good point.
To gain all these results. And so the scan shows you've got to track that. As you get more results, you got to fuel for that. And that's where a lot of people, don't understand. That's a whole nother topic and podcast that we can do another time.
Yeah.
And we should talk about that because that's something that people don't understand and they live in a deficit. And from day one, I said, when you come in the gym, we only think in positives. We're building. We're in abundance. Things like that. We're not in a negative. We're not deficient. We're not restricting. We're not dieting. We're not doing any of that. Mm-hmm. And then look at all the stuff that we built, right? By building, you've lost fat. By building, you've gotten smaller. And so it's just flipping that switch to the psychology of, results based anything. It's how you think about it. It's how you approach it. So the InBody scan is wonderful for those reasons. You got to track it. If you don't know how much you need to eat, you can't just guess. It's not a shot in the dark kind of thing. You got to know.
It makes a big difference. And actually, I started out eating about 1,800 calories. Now I'm up to 2,200 calories. So they actually upped it. I'm losing more weight, gaining more, burning more fat by eating more. And I hit on this in one of my other podcasts too, that's the common misconception is calorie deficit. And you're right. It does create negative thinking. It always is. I'm taking away, take away, take away. It's never building. It's never gaining and never abundance. Like you're right. If you think in that positive terms, mentally and psychologically, it's such a better way to think about it than taking away, removing things and losing. And it's a much better way to look at it this way. And I'm seeing the results, and I know all your clients are seeing the results too.
Absolutely. And it's just the verbiage you use, like I said, and you might have not even noticed I was doing it, but not once have I ever talked to you with any type of negative connotations. It was always building. This is what we're going to do. We're building this. We're fueling for this. I need you to eat more for this. Yeah. And in turn, I knew that was going to get those same results. We just did it in a different way. And I tend to find that is a lot more beneficial and a lot more successful for people and for clients. Because you come in there and you got 50 pounds to lose. That's daunting. That's hard. And that's nobody wants to be in that position. So if you, or you spin how you talk about it, you spin how you think about it, you can really start to change people's mentality towards it and help them with that journey. Your results have been great. Not only aesthetically have you gotten results, and we're still getting results. This is not a 2 or 3 month thing.
We're only halfway through this thing.
Absolutely. We still got this week and all of March, and maybe we got about 6 weeks left if you think about it. And we've been doing this since December, not a sprint. This is absolutely a marathon. Yeah. But even then, when the challenge ends, I'm hoping that what you got out of this were, good habits, whether that's with your nutrition, stress management, good habits in a gym routine, how you work out, how you recover. Those are things that won't end as the challenge ends. And that is what, I coach people on is I want you to be able to have that knowledge and take it and run with it. even after your time with me is up, or a challenge or a weight loss or transformation journey ends. At some point, you're going to reach your goal. Well, you can't just throw everything out the window.
Yeah. This
is a new lifestyle, quote unquote. These are new habits that you're forming and building. So aesthetically, you've done good. And then also with some of your injuries and stabilities, like I said, just a strong base.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And that's how I felt. And my goal was definitely more than just this challenge. My goal was to change my lifestyle and become the healthy version of myself that I saw in myself, but finally needed to actually do it. So let me ask you this last thing. So how can people get a hold of you, to reach out to you, like do you, on Instagram or Facebook, and also at your gym? Like how can they get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, very active on the Instagram daily. I try to engage in as many followers as I can. I'm posting a lot of things that span a wide variety of topics to try to help push out knowledge and just engagement out there in social media as that platform. All Strength Nashville is my Instagram handle. Same for Facebook. I have a website, allstrengthnashville.com. Can you link things here?
Yeah, so we'll provide that for our viewers.
Yeah, we'll have a link. We'll have a link on here that you can click that will take you to some of my stuff. But yeah, website, Instagram. I'm very intentional. I like to, call me or text me, things like that. I want to get you in. But those two platforms are probably going to be the most beneficial for new people who are just trying to figure out what it is I do, or the gym, things like that. So yeah, a lot of social media presence, and I try to engage and interact with as many people as I can on there. Perfect.
And anybody wanting to reach out to me, if you had any questions about, what you're doing, if you needed help with your workouts or some things that I've done, please reach out to me as well. So reach out to me at Sporting Good Posture, DM me at Sporting Good Posture on Instagram. We're here to help people. And again, I did this challenge not only to look better and feel better, but really I want to help my patients that come in here have avenues to go to. A great place like Lauren at All Strength Nashville, and NutriShop, where I've gone to get meals and scans and do my, follow my results and join these challenges. And these are the kind of relationships I want to have with people so that they can really have a good avenue to go to. So again, reach out to me at Sporting Good Posture. Tell me what's going on, and I'll tell you what I think. Remember, the coach's door is always open. I'm Coach Margella. I'm Sporting Good Posture. How about you?
The Sporting Good Posture podcast is a broadcast wellness production powered by Ideal Health and Wellness Center. All content copyright 2019, all rights reserved. Executive producer Frank Sardella. Dr. Margella appears courtesy of Ideal Health and Wellness Center in Cool Springs. For more information, visit sportinggoodposture.com or follow Coach on Instagram at Sporting Good Posture.